We're joined now by the retired four-star general, Wesley Clark, former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. As always, General Clark, welcome. We've had this conversation before, but as Robert says over the weekend, even more from Russia, more talk from Europe, more from the U.S. What would work? Would anything work best, I guess, is the best way to ask it in terms of these sanctions if they go forward?
Well, I think you can't expect to have results if you creep the sanctions forward gradually. You can't. This requires shock effect on Putin and his government. And so that means you need to go heavy up front. Take the $300 billion, sanction all Russian banks, cut off all use of the dollar and the dollar exchange mechanisms to buy oil, stop the shadow fleet that is shipping Russian oil out of ports, just to block it. These are unregistered shipments, so they need to be stopped. They may be protected by Russian aircraft. We'll shoo the Russian aircraft away. This is international law. We say no. So I think you could put together sanctions like this, have a shock effect. I think they could have some impact. But the reality is actually what Russia said. We're not going to change Putin's mind by imposing hardship on the Russian people. The only way you're going to really change his mind is if he thinks he's going to lose on the ground. And that means military assistance, lots of it, and more directly from the United States.
Here's the comment from the president himself when he got back from the U.S. Open to Joint Base Andrews over the weekend and how he couched things, saying, that the Europeans are coming in, they're going to talk it through. Here's what President Trump said.
It's such a horrible waste of humanity. So, no, I am not thrilled with what's happening there, I will tell you. I think it's going to get settled. Certain European leaders are coming over to our country on Monday or Tuesday, and individually. And I think we're going to get that settled.
Get that settled. Now, to go back to your earlier point, General Clark, I could see the president moving forward with some sort of additional economic sanctions, maybe even going after oil. But if you're right about the fact that that's not what Putin will respond to, I find it harder to believe that he'd be more aggressive on the military side. I mean, that's where the reluctance has been from him and from his base, right? Do you expect Trump, anything from Trump in that regard? Anything more?
It's not what I expect, really, Connell. It's what is required. Look, we signed a pledge to Ukraine in 1994. If they gave up nuclear weapons, we would assure that their borders were not violated. So we're on the bottom line of this. We're not living up to our pledge to Ukraine. Now, why do we want to give up 80 years of U.S. leadership of the global community? That's what people are asking. It's inexplicable. And that leadership is inextricably tied to standing up to Russia on Ukraine. We're not asking to go to war with Russia. Just give Ukraine what it needs to defend itself. But do it now. Don't let any more people die. And by the way, if you're worried about how many Russians die, well, that's Mr. Putin's problem. And the more assistance you give Ukraine, the sooner Russia will realize it can't win, and the fewer Russian soldiers will die in this conflict. So I think, we've sort of reached the end of the line of looking at Mr. Putin and saying, gee, Vladimir, wouldn't it be a lot nicer to be friends with the U.S.? And you don't really need China and so forth. I think the meetings in Beijing last week showed that that's not going to work. I think President Trump will come around to this. I hope he will, because this is a direct challenge to U.S. global leadership. And that leadership is key to American security and prosperity at home. It's not enough to have strong borders and police Maduro in Venezuela. You've got to be active in the rest of the world promoting American interests and American values. We've done it for 80 years. Don't stop.
But the way, to your point, in 1994, we didn't really do it, right? That pledge was not a guarantee. I mean, that's been talked about in terms of how security guarantees would be worded this time around, correct? I mean,
right, that's right.
It was basically like, hey.
It's not a guarantee.
Right.
It was not a guarantee. It was a promise, but not a guarantee.
Clearly.
It was a legal fiction, so you didn't have to wait to go through a congressional hearing. But we could have gotten it as a legal guarantee. No one thought it was necessary. We had Russia themselves signing that they would respect the borders of Ukraine.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.